Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing a final look at NFL Week 1 for DraftKings and Fanduel. We'll go through each position, talk about some injuries, and then I'll give you guys some of my favorite plays at each different tier. So let's get started. As always, if you guys enjoy the videos, appreciate it if you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Really appreciate all the support you guys have shown. Yesterday, we got a Bills explosion. I was hoping I would be a bit closer, had pretty much a balanced approach on DraftKings and Fanduel. So besides Cooper Kupp, the Rams' offense was very poor, and so just didn't really work out. But it happens. Move on to Sunday. Hopefully, we can rebound from that game. But if you want to join us, you can visit the website. Link is down below. Check out Twitter to stay connected. So, as some injury news that we have right now, it's Week 1, but there's already a handful of players, especially at the wide receiver position, that are on the injury report. We'll have a lot more as the season goes on, obviously. But at the quarterback position right now, Zach Wilson is the only main piece that is out, and we kind of knew that a couple days ago. But it's going to be Joe Flacco starting against the Baltimore Ravens. If Wilson was playing, then probably like the Ravens defense a little bit more, just because he's more turnover prone than Joe Flacco, who's kind of just a game manager and will just take what the defense will give him. But either way, this should be low scoring for the Jets offense. Running back, speaking of the Ravens, we have the J.K. Dobbins is questionable. Reports are saying that he's making pretty good progress in practice and he's been limited. But I'm not sure he'll be able to play. And if he does play, I don't know how much he'll play. Kind of like Cam Akers last night. Just Henderson got all the work. So Dobbins, he's very risky if he does suit up. But if we do get the word that he is out, it's going to be a Mike Davis start and possibly some Kenyon Drake backup touches. Wide receiver, we have a handful of players here. Starting with Michael Thomas against the Falcons. He's questionable. He's limited. He's limited in practice the last few days, so I do expect him to play. He hasn't played in so long, and the matchup is pretty solid against the Falcons. So if he does play, he's a guy that you could pair with Winston. He's like $5,700 on DraftKings, pretty appropriately priced on FanDuel as well. Allen Lazard, that's a big one. We kind of got word a few days ago that he was out practice for personal reasons, and he missed practice again, and then we got word that he's doubtful for his ankle injury. So he doesn't look like he's going to play, and that's a big deal because they are already thin on bodies. Not having Devontae Adams this year, they were going to rely on Allen Lazard to be the number one wide receiver. Now they're going to have to rely on some rookies, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, to really play a lot of snaps and get some targets. You're also going to see the veteran Sammy Watkins, how long he can play before getting hurt, as well as very veteran Randall Cobb, who does have a history with Aaron Rodgers. Those guys will all probably take some snaps, and probably those four will get all the work at the receiver position. But Rodgers does like to throw to his tight end, and Tanyan is not on the injury report anymore, so that's good news that he'll be available. And they do have two great running backs that can catch the ball, so I expect both Dylan and Aaron Jones to be very involved. Drake London, he is questionable against the Saints. If he's not able to play, then they really are super thin at receiving options, so you're probably going to be looking at like Bryan Edwards, former Raider, getting a lot of snaps and possibly some targets, although I do expect a lot of targets just go to Kyle Pitts, go to Cordell Patterson. Jacoby Myers, questionable against Miami, not a game that I'm super interested in anyways, but if he is not able to play, then Devontae Parker should get some more snaps going up against his former team. We have Rondell Moore is out against KC. That's also a big one that we got this week. So with Moore not playing and already having Hopkins suspended for the first 6 games, it's going to be up to A.J. Green and up to Marquise Brown to really take control of the wide receiver position this week. Marquise Brown could have a huge week because Rondell Moore was pretty popular, before he got hurt, or he got hurt in practice, and he's out for this week. So you're going to be looking at those guys, and Zach Ertz is also questionable. We'll get to him, but they could be thin as well for Kyler Murray. And then last but not least, at the receiver position, you have Velus Jones Jr., who Bears drafted. It was going to be their third wide receiver. He's doubtful if he doesn't play. Even more snaps and more targets, especially for Mooney and possibly for Pringle. Tight ends, you got some guys questionable. I think at least Kittle will play. He doesn't normally miss games, but if he doesn't play, then like Smelly Dwelly could get a resurgence for them. Zach Ertz is questionable. If he doesn't play, then you're probably going to be looking at even more work for Marquise Brown and whoever the backup is for him, like Terry McBride, believe will get some work for the draft pick. Logan Thomas for the Commanders, and if he does play, we know Wentz, back with his days with the Eagles, loves throwing to tight ends. Him and Ertz, he like set the Eagles record for most catches in a season for a tight end. He looks good. If he doesn't play, then John Bates would get the start, and he can be viable punt. And then Donald Parham Jr., it's going to be more Everett at tight end if he's not able to play, which it doesn't look like it. So those are the main tight end plays, or the main, not tight end. Those are the main injuries at the positions, starting with quarterback plays this week. These are some guys I like at each tier. The top end, you have Patrick Mahomes against the Cardinals. It should be a high-scoring game. Even with some of the injuries on Arizona, I still expect this one to be one that you could possibly stack up, and it's even easier to stack Arizona now that they're banged up, just because you know you're going to be looking at Marquise Brown. You're going to be trying to get to Ertz if he's able to play, or even Connor will get some more targets now. They're thin at receiver. But Mahomes, after seeing what Josh Allen did to the Rams, you expect him to, those guys kind of have some sort of competition, nothing externally, but just definitely see them bring the best out of each other. We saw in that crazy playoff game. So I do expect Mahomes to have a great game, but I like to target some running quarterbacks if I can, and Lamar Jackson is there against the Jets. Could be one that they score so many points that he doesn't have to do too much passing in the second half, but that could lead to more running. So as long as he doesn't it's such a big blowout that he has a seat on the bench with a few minutes to go in the fourth. Jackson does look like one of the best spend-ups, and he's not crazy expensive. Mid-range, Jalen Hurts against Detroit, probably one of the best mid-range plays. He's at $6,800 on DraftKings. He's projected to be like a top 5 quarterback this week across the board, across different fantasy websites. Going up against Detroit, they're on the road, but it doesn't really matter. That could keep it a bit closer. The spread is pretty close for this game. It's only Eagles -4. I do love the Eagles to win this game. And Hurts, with some weapons this year, now he doesn't have to be as good in terms of locating. Throw a ball up to A.J. Brown, he's going to catch it. So he looks awesome. Joe Burrow, if you wanted to go also with a guy that's pretty affordable against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh starting Mitch Trubisky. Burrow still has great weapons. Obviously didn't lose anybody. Jamar Chase should have a big year once again. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, great running back, and Joe Mixon. And then for value plays, these are guys well below like 6K, like 56 and below. Yeah, Winston against Atlanta. It's another one that could be more scoring heavy than anticipated, at least for the Saints' perspective. And even the Falcons, they could score some if Pitts goes crazy, or even Mariota can run a little bit. And Winston himself can run a bit as well. He's not going to run as much as Hurts or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, but he can get you like 30 to 40 yards, possibly scamper in one if they're close to the goal line. And then Matt Ryan against Houston, just if you're stacking the Colts this week, then Matt Ryan fits in nicely if you pair with Michael Pittman. But I'd rather get to some of these quarterbacks, give you a little bit more upside than Matt Ryan does, although he can have some good weeks. At the running back position, top end, don't really have any problem if you wanted to go with either Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey this week to pay up. McCaffrey is considerably cheaper on DraftKings by like $600-$700. So you can definitely make an argument to get McCaffrey over Taylor, especially if you're getting like Pittman and you don't want to go crazy with the Colts side. Then definitely you can go with McCaffrey, or if you're feeling great about the Colts offense, you can stack up all three, Ryan, Taylor, as well as Pittman. But personally, probably out of the top end, my favorite might be Austin Eckler against the Raiders. Eckler is always in the mix in the red zone situations. Not only is he a threat to run it in on the ground, but he's also has just as great of a chance to catch it out of the backfield and run one in, or get a receiving touchdown that way. 20 touchdowns last year, should have another big year in a high-scoring offense that once again didn't really didn't really change their target share too much. It's still going to be going to the main guys, Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Mid-range at the running back position, Joe Mixon looks affordable enough on DraftKings. He's not as crazy expensive as these top guys that are above 8K, and like Taylor's at over 9K, but it's like $7,200 on DraftKings. Even on FanDuel's a little bit more expensive, but still viable just because he's a workhorse. Some of these running backs, they get off the field on third down situations, not Joe Mixon. Aaron Jones, with them not having Lazard likely, he's going to be a big factor. He probably will line up, he could line up out of the backfield a lot. Dylan could line up at receiver a little bit as well, but he's going to probably get 15, 20 touches easily. The Najee Harris, probably one of the better values as well, as similar to Jones at 64 against Cincinnati. another 3-down workhorse who, starting Mitch Trubisky, they could look to, get Harris the ball early and feed him a bit. And he can also catch some dump-off passes from Trubisky, who will look to running backs' ways at times. Value plays, Saquon Barkley is super cheap. The whole Giants team is cheap, but if I had to pick one, it would definitely be Barkley, just with all the upside that he could give you, and another guy that's going to be a 3-down back. So 61 is still a tough matchup. Tennessee's very tough against the run, but if you're factoring in price, then he still makes sense as a value. Elijah Mitchell against the Bears. He's also had a big second half of the season last year when they were down at running backs. They needed him to produce, and he did, and now he's getting rewarded with kind of being the unquestioned starter, a guy that will also be able to catch passes. Not the highest scoring game, not the best matchup against the Bears, maybe a little bit slower paced, but still very affordable. And then Dameon Pierce against the Colts. Not very often do you get in week 1 a running back below 5K that's going to be starting, and that is exactly what Pierce will be. He's going to be the bell cow first and second downs, and then you get Rex Burkhead coming in on passing situations. Wide receiver plays, top end. For me, it's out of the top this week for week 1, where you don't have Cooper Kupp on the main slate, you don't have Stephon Diggs on the main slate. We have some good receivers on the Sunday and Monday night games. So top end is still strong, but there's a lot of mid-range value this week that I don't mind not going crazy with the top end. But Justin Jefferson sticks out against the Packers. You should have a huge year. Jamar Chase against the Steelers looks great as well. He should be able to put up points against that defense secondary. Pittsburgh has a strong front pass rush, but the corners, especially with Chase, he can blow past anyone. Mid-range, A.J. Brown, you're getting what a lot of people expect to be a top 10 receiver this year for like $6,400 on DraftKings. Still somewhat decent priced on FanDuel as well. And the matchup couldn't be better against the Lions. You're getting a great high-scoring potential for the Eagles' offense and a guy that will make some noise in the red zone. So definitely get some red zone targets and possibly a touchdown or two. Mike Williams, always want to go with guys in high-scoring environments and offenses that, especially in this game, we've seen the back-and-forth nature between these two teams over the last year since Herbert. Last year we got a couple good games out of them, especially the one that decided who was going to make the playoffs. And Mike Williams had a really good year, and he's had some crazy, slate-breaking games. And he's another guy just like A.J. Brown, a big body that's going to make some noise in red zone situations. And then Marquise Brown against the Chiefs, with how banged up the Cardinals are, he could be in line for a big role to get his career started as a Cardinal. And it's another environment that should be conducive to high scores. Value plays, Darnell Mooney against the 49ers. Even though this offense isn't going to be great this year, Mooney should still have a huge year. We saw him have 16, 13, 14, lots of games that close out second half of last year with double-digit targets and 100-plus yards and 8 to 10 catches a game. And that shouldn't really change. Fields and Mooney are the future, I guess. Fields still question mark, but Mooney is definitely legit. And even though the matchup is tough, especially with them not even having their rookie receivers doubtful, Velus Jones, more looks for Mooney. Michael Pittman, probably one of the best values at receiver. He's only 55 against Houston, going up with finally getting another new quarterback for him. He's kind of had already 3 in his few years. But now Matt Ryan is a veteran that will get him the ball and has a history of having receivers and making receivers look really good and having them have great fantasy years. So Pittman, not surprisingly, is a lot of people's favorites to break out. And then values at the bottom, Rashad Bateman against the Jets, number 1 receiver, had a couple good games to close out second half of last year, and that should continue with them getting rid of Marquise Brown. Bateman and Andrews should command a lot of targets. Chris Olave against the Falcons, especially if there's no Michael Thomas, only $4,500, another guy that can make some noise in red zone situations. He just needs 1 touchdown to really crush values, only $4,500. And then Romeo Doubs, a rookie that the Packers could be relying on heavily. He had a great preseason and a great training camp, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a start with them not having Lazard, likely. Tight end plays, on DraftKings at least, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, they look awesome if you can try to get to them. They're not that expensive. A couple weeks we'll probably see Kelce above 7K. We might see Mark Andrews above 7K as well. But this week you're getting Kelce mid 6K range. You're getting Andrews similar to that. And then you're getting a smaller price gap between Kelce and Andrews than to the second tier with Kittle and Kyle Pitts. So for me, if I'm paying up, I'd rather get to Kelsey and Mark Andrews, the guys that I will know. And most games, you expect them to score 15 to 20 at least. Mid-range wise, like Pitts is in the mix just because they might not have anybody to throw the ball to if they don't have Drake London. Dallas Goedert against Detroit, if you're looking to stack Hurts with both weapons, a tight end and A.J. Brown, and you don't even have to go with Devontae Smith if you don't need to, but those three could be a nice stack. And then Robert Tonyan, with him not being on the injury report anymore, but he could still be limited with snaps, so he might be a bit of a question mark. But we know Rodgers does love Tonyan, and he's going to be a big factor this year with them not having Devontae Adams. And the value plays at the bottom. You have Austin Hooper against the Giants. Titans once again got rid of both of their wide receivers last year. They brought in two new ones. A rookie, Treylon Burks, who had a up and down preseason. He did have some good games, some moments, but he also struggled a little bit. But I do like him to have some good games and possibly emerge as a number one wide receiver in Tennessee in a few weeks. But they also have Robert Woods, who they brought over. But Hooper, with Tannehill liking to target tight ends, he could be heavily involved. And then Cole Kmet, he probably could be like a top 10, top 12 tight end this year for fantasy. It's going to be Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet to get a lot of targets, and he was getting a lot more targets from Fields, and he's a tight end that will mostly be used in passing situations. Could be some blocking, but he'll run some routes, and he's not just going to stand there and block guys. And then last but not least, some defense plays. If you're looking to pay up, you can go with the Saints against the Falcons. My preferred payout would be like the Colts against the Houston Texans with Davis Mills and company. Even though the Colts are on the road, normally for defense, I'd like to pay down a bit unless there's like an obvious one that's like facing a third-string quarterback and the weather is terrible or something like that. But week 1, I'm preferring to go down here to like the Dolphins, which I probably should have highlighted them. But the Dolphins against the Patriots look really good. If you look at the mid-range, the Titans, the Eagles look good as well. And then even have the Washington, the Redskins, or the Commanders against Jacksonville Jaguars, another defense that we could look at. But yeah, that is about it for me for the video. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys like this format. But best of luck. I'll have Prize Picks video out tomorrow. And once again, if you want to stay connected, you can follow me on Twitter. Check out the links down below in the description. And I will see you all next time. Take care. Have a great weekend and make some money on Sunday.